Hi everyone, welcome to this week's edition of News Dabs with Jimmy Young for the ProCannabis Media Group and ProCannabisMedia.com. We look for the most interesting news items from the emerging cannabis world here in the U.S. and around the globe. There are quite a few items last week in Washington, D.C., but before that, we start with the state of Illinois. Thanks to a legislature initiative, the Prairie State has become the 11th state to legalize cannabis sales for adults. The governor, J.B. Pritzker, is going to sign it, and Illinois will become the first state to legalize cannabis without a voter-approved ballot measure. Details of the bill are available on the ProCannabisMedia.com website. Now let's move on to our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Two big items to talk about, with one so significant it will have an immediate effect on the hemp and CBD business worlds. The Department of Agriculture has descheduled hemp and CBD while allowing interstate commerce to commence for both of those fledgling industries. As Cincy Boston Magazine editor Dan McCarthy explains, this finally gives some clarity to the farm bill that was passed back in December.
We're living in an age of gray zones, right? And a lot of people have everybody's a CBD expert, everybody's a CBD preacher. You know, right now, what everybody needs more than anything else is clarification. And what happened today basically now opens up a lot of doors, right? And what are those doors? Those doors are everything from making sure that the kind and quality of hemp-based products that are being transported and brought across state lines, which will now be legal.
Right, you can't stop them and throw them to jail
anymore.
Right.
That can now open up everything for agriculture, for the CBD sort of network of distribution across the states. And listen, there's a lot of stuff happening in Washington on this case. When you've got major corporations, right, looking into the efficacy of CBD, maybe because of what it does for people, or maybe because this is like striking gold to a lot of people with this entire new cure-all. Is it all tinfoil hat? Is it all, holistic mumbo-jumbo? No. There's plenty of double-blind placebo test stuff to be found in anecdotal research until federal research gets to be opened up. Why is federal research opened up? Now that we're on that road to declassification and descheduling, we're in a new place to be able to start doing testing, to create a better product, a safer marketplace, and a more robust economy within this new growth market.
That new market is hemp and CBD, a market that could grow to trillions of dollars. Another development from the Department of Agriculture is that they have put the regulation of CBD under the regulatory umbrella of the Food and Drug Administration. That group held a public hearing on CBD in Washington, D.C. last week. The NCIA, the National Cannabis Industry Association, led by our friend Aaron Smith, testified before the FDA about the benefits of CBD, and at that hearing there were over 100 testimonies heard. It was certainly a very busy day. Now, there was another federal ruling that gives cannabis advocates another reason to celebrate. It's a little complicated because it comes from the appeals courts. There is currently a lawsuit brought by two parents of kids who are challenging the federal government's classification of cannabis as a Schedule I drug. Last week, the court put the federal government on notice that they have to change the schedule of marijuana as a Schedule I drug so people who need the medicine don't unduly suffer. This is the first time a challenge to the Federal Controlled Substances Act has not been dismissed. And don't be surprised if all this momentum and pressure gets that SAFE Banking Act passed before the summer. That'll open up the banks to the cannabis, hemp, and CBD world. That, of course, is the goal of the Safe and Responsible Banking Alliance, where Stacey Dansky is the executive director. She's already prepping for the next battle even before this one is won.
This isn't our only shot. Right? We're not going to pass banking or SAFE. We're not even going to pass SAFE and be done with banking.
Right.
But we're going to pass SAFE. And then, as you mentioned, Barney Frank used to always say, give them an easy vote, let them go home and come back and then give them the next one. And this gives people a chance to dip their toe in and vote for something that has the word cannabis in it, and see that they didn't lose their seat over supporting access to cannabis banking for legal businesses.
Stacey will be my guest on the next In the Weeds. Now let's get to the state of Massachusetts. The Cannabis Sales Tote Board for this past week, for the week right before Memorial Day. A new record was set in the Bay State for adult use sales, now over $9,035,817 in 1 week. There were 5 days there were over $1 million sold each day. The total since the industry was launched in November is now over $139 million sold. That's a whole lot of weed. Two more local stories. One is really upsetting. The Boston Globe reported about this story first. It's another embarrassment for the Veterans Administration. A disabled Army veteran was denied access to a low-rate mortgage by the VA after he disclosed that he was an assistant manager at a licensed cannabis dispensary. Huh? This is how we are treating our veterans? As an American, I am ashamed of how the VA treats those who have literally put their bodies and brains on the line for our freedoms. Lastly, the image that has already gone viral, but since Ben & Jerry's ice cream is such a part of the New England entrepreneurial history here, they posted an image of their ice cream with an infused CBD label. Now, it hasn't happened yet, but it will when the federal government finally treats the emerging cannabis business with the same respect it has treated other adult use products. No matter what, though, it's a whole new world of weed out there. That's News Dabs for this week. Reporting for the Pro Cannabis Media Group and ProCannabisMedia.com, I'm Jimmy Young, and here's some cannabis-friendly events in the greater Boston area over the next few weeks.